In this lesson, we'll look at how to solve integrated trade discount problems. Now, I've prepared two questions, and in both of these questions, you'll find that the following problems involve discount markups and markdowns. Given the complexity of each scenario, these problems do not follow a one-size-fits-all approach. Instead, they require a true understanding of the relationships between the original price, the percentage change, and the final price. With that being said, let's take a look at question number 1, which reads, an appliance store sold Nespresso coffee machines for $99.99 during a promotional sale. The store bought the coffee makers for $105 less 35% and 15%. That right there suggests a trade discount. Overhead is 25% of the regular selling price. Question A, if the store's markup is 90% of the regular selling price, what was the rate of markdown? In other words, what is the percentage change from the regular selling price to the sale price? This is called the rate of markdown. Before we start solving this, just a reminder that a markup accounts for overhead, operating expenses, and the desired profit margins of the business owner. And in this particular example, it represents a portion of the regular selling price. So, of course, we need to find the selling price, but we can't find the selling price unless we know the net price of each unit. So the very first thing that we will do is find out how much each unit costs. Now, it costs $105 less 35 less 15. We need to find out what the cost is per unit by using the following formula, where the net price is equal to the list price multiplied to 1 take away the discount. Now, because this is a trade discount involving two separate discounts, the first discount of 35% will be denoted as D sub 1, and because it's a trade discount, our second will be denoted as D sub 2. This formula is no different than percent change. In fact, this is percent decrease. If you recall, the generic version of this formula is the initial value take away initial times the rate is equal to the final. All we've done is common factored the I and multiplied it by a second factor, which denotes the second discount. So with that being said, the list price is $105. And the first discount is 35%. So I'll change that into a decimal as 0.35 and also change D sub 2 as 0.15. Using our calculator, we have 105 multiplied to 1 take away 0.35 times 1 take away 0.15. And we end up with a net price per unit being $58 and that much change. We want to keep all these numbers as we do the problem. So that is the cost per each unit. In some textbooks, this is even denoted as C for the cost. The next thing we'll do is use this value to find out the selling price. Because only once we find the selling price can we figure out the rate of markdown. Let me explain to you what I mean. So the selling price is equal to the cost per unit, which we've denoted as N, being 58.0125, plus the markup cost. Now, the markup is found, we'll call it M, by taking the selling price and multiplying it to the rate in which you want it to be marked up. And in our case, it's 90%, so 0.9. Now, this formula is no different than the formula that I introduced in one of my previous lessons, where you have the base multiplied to the rate, and that's equal to the portion. So the markup is a portion of the base value, which happens to be the selling price, just so that you know where this relationship is coming from. I'll go ahead and substitute this expression right into my formula. So I have S is equal to 58.0125 plus S times 0.90. All I have to do from here is solve for S. That in turn will give me my selling price. That is the price without the discount. Okay, so to solve for S, we'll bring that term right here over to the other side to group the like terms. So S take away S times 0.90, and we have 58.0125 on the right side. S is common in both of the terms on the left side. So we'll factor out an S, and this gives us 1 take away 0.90. And all we have to do now is solve for S. We get S multiplied to 0.1, and we divide both sides by 0.1 to give us our regular sell price. So S is equal to 58.0125 divided by 0.1, and we end up with $580.125. So that is the regular price of the machine, and it is currently selling for $99.99. We need to find out the percent change from this price, the one that it sells for regularly, to the sale price, which is $99.99. And the percent change formula, specifically for percent decrease, is initial take away initial rate is equal to final. So initially, the price was 580.125. Take away again 580.125. We are looking for the rate of markdown, so it's R that we leave as blank, and currently it is $99.99. And so all we have to do is solve for R, and if we apply some simple algebra here, we move that over, we get negative 580.125 R is equal to 99.99 take away 580.125. Let's use our calculator. 99.99 take away 580.125. So that's the right side of the equation. And we'll divide both sides by that factor that I'm highlighting. This will isolate for R. So that's 580.125. Don't forget that it's negative. And whatever you end up finding, you multiply it by 100%. So don't forget that part. R is equal to the number on our screen divided by negative 580.125. And we multiply this by 100%. This means that the rate of markdown is roughly 82.8%. Let's move on now to question B. What operating profit or loss was made during the sale? So as a result of putting this sale, did you make a profit or was there a loss? To do this problem, we have to find the total cost of this item. And I'll represent that as T, and it's found by taking the cost per unit, which we represented as N, but for simplicity, we'll call it C, so that way we know that it represents cost. And that was this value right here, plus the overhead, which represents a portion of the regular selling price. So the regular selling price was denoted as S, and the overhead was 0.25 as depicted in the question. This part right here in literature is often designated the letter E, which stands for overhead or operating expenses per unit. So let's go ahead and put in what we know. We know that the net price per unit was 58.0125 plus our regular selling price multiplied to the overhead rate of 25%. We have 58.0125 plus 58.0125 multiplied by 0.25, and we end up with a value of 203,04375. So to find out if there was an operating profit or loss, we will take the sale price, and that was $99.99, and take away from that the total, which is what we just found. The formula is shown on your screen for reference. And it is clear that the output here will be negative. So 99.99, take away what we just found as our total, and we get minus 103.05 cents. So you'd report an operating loss of $103.05 as a result of this sale. And finally, for our last question, what rate of markup based on cost was realized? Now, before we start answering this question, remember that the cost per unit was 58.0125, and we also denoted that as N initially. Now, because the rate of markup in this question is based on the cost, we're looking for the percent change that will make 58.0125 into the sales price, the promotion price of $99.99. In other words, what percentage changes $58.01 over to $99.99? Essentially, this is a percent change problem. So remember that the percentage change formula is initial plus, and specifically for percent change increase, we use plus, IR is equal to F. Initially, the cost is 58.0125. The rate is what we're looking for, and the final price is $99.99. We can solve for R by moving that constant over to this side. And we've seen a calculation like this earlier in this video. So it's the same sort of algebra as before. When we subtract these, we end up with our markup. So on our calculator, $99.99, take away 58.0125, and that is 41.9775. Now, dividing both sides of this equation by this factor will give us a rate of which needs to be multiplied by 100%. So the number on our screen divided by 58.0125, this gives us that number multiplied by 100%, and this means that the achieved markup based on cost is 72.4%. If you would like to see the answer to question number 2, feel free to leave a comment in the comment section below and I'll gladly upload the solution. Thank you for watching. I'll talk to you all later.